With 8 minutes to go in qualifying at the 1982 Belgian Grand Prix, the March 821 of Jochen and the Ferrari 126C2 of Gilles Villeneuve collided in a devastating crash. The immense forces unleashed by the impact tore apart the French-Canadian driver's car, hurled him nearly 50 meters, and inflicted catastrophic injuries that just a few hours later tragically claimed his life. To fully understand the crash dynamics and the chain of events that followed, we conducted an in-depth technical analysis to determine exactly how the accident unfolded and what factors ultimately led to Gilles Villeneuve's death. Before beginning the accident analysis, we need to understand the broader context in which the events unfolded. 13 days earlier, at the San Marino Grand Prix, Didier Pironi ignored team orders and deliberately took the win from Villeneuve. The Canadian saw it as a profound personal betrayal and even went so far as to describe the situation with his teammate as a war. Friends and family later said Villeneuve seemed unusually tense, emotionally affected, and unsettled throughout qualifying with a single objective in mind: to beat Pironi's time. However, the events would unfold on Saturday, May 8th, during the second qualifying session, with Gilles Villeneuve behind the wheel of his Ferrari 126C2 in qualifying trim, set up with settings and tires designed for a single fast lap. The car was a ground effect machine built around a mixed aluminum monocoque with carbon fiber honeycomb panels. Its structural rigidity met the standards of the era, but it was far from modern expectations in terms of cockpit integrity under multiple impacts and severe vertical loads, particularly in high-energy crashes. The session was in its closing minutes, a phase when fuel loads were extremely low, cornering speeds were at their absolute peak, and the qualifying tires were at or even beyond their optimal grip. Villeneuve was on a flying lap with a clear and uncompromising mission. On the timing screens, his best lap was extremely close to his teammate's benchmark, and he was determined to surpass it at any cost. The accident zone was located on a stretch just after a chicane. The car would exit that section with the engine overboosted, go over a crest, and enter a slight left-hand bend that, in 1982, was taken almost flat out in qualifying. On corner exit, the driver feeds onto a very fast straight leading into the double right-hander at Terlemenbocht. It is a point where the speed difference between a car on a flying lap and one returning to the pits can be enormous, compounded by limited visibility over the crest and the relatively narrow width of the track. At that moment, Jochen was ahead in his March 821, returning to the pits at reduced speed. His quick lap was already completed, and his priority was to finish a cool-down lap without stressing the machinery or risking mechanical failure. It is estimated that at the moment of contact, the Ferrari was traveling about 124 miles per hour, while the March was moving much slower, creating a massive and critical speed gap between the two cars. The dynamic key to the accident lies in the split-second decisions both drivers made as the faster car closed in. Mas saw the Ferrari approaching rapidly in his mirrors, and following usual logic, moved off the racing line to the right to leave the path clear. However, Villeneuve had already committed to overtaking on that same side, assuming Mas would stay to the inside or on a central line. The exact point of contact occurred between the right front wheel of Gilles' Ferrari and the left rear wheel of Jochen's March 821. It was not a flat side-to-side collision, but a violent impact in which the front wheel of the pursuing car rode up and over the rear wheel of the car directly ahead. This type of contact is particularly dangerous in open-wheel cars because the tire and wheel suspension assembly of the leading car act like a ramp, converting part of the translational energy into a vertical component. Villeneuve's car, instead of merely losing speed through friction and structural deformation, was violently catapulted high upward into the air. The instant all four wheels left the asphalt, the car entered a purely ballistic state, ground effect aerodynamics, which depend on the floor and skirts remaining close to the track, no longer generated downforce. The car lost its ability to stick to the ground and became literally a projectile. Its attitude in flight developed a strong nose-down pitch, with the front becoming the first point of contact with the track. When that section hit the surface, the deceleration was extreme. The front structure of the Ferrari was not designed to absorb such a vertical impact at over 124 miles per hour. After that initial impact, the rest of the car did not stop, beginning a sequence of spinning and rotating around its vertical axis. With each impact on the ground, the forces were brutally transmitted to the attachment points between the survival cell and peripheral elements such as the suspension, engine, and gearbox. The mixed aluminum monocoque, reinforced with carbon panels, began to fracture. The riveted and bonded joints were not overbuilt for such a violent sequence of chained impacts. The enormous forces caused Villeneuve and the harness securing him to completely separate from the main monocoque structure. The driver left the car structure still attached to the seatbelt and a small piece of torn chassis. The driver restraint system continued functioning but dragged along the structural support to which it was firmly fixed. Meanwhile, the combined translational and rotational forces on the body exceeded the capacity of Villeneuve's helmet restraint system, based on a conventional chin strap. Unfortunately, in the final phase of the accident, the helmet had come off, leaving his head exposed just as his body was about to strike the outer barriers. After the accident, several drivers stopped their cars and ran toward the fence, finding Villeneuve tangled in the mesh, not breathing spontaneously but still with a pulse. Seconds later, the track medical team arrived, and the driver was initially stabilized at the circuit's medical center, then airlifted by helicopter to University St. Raphael Hospital. At the hospital, emergency examinations were carried out. Imaging studies and neurological evaluation confirmed a catastrophic fracture of the upper cervical vertebrae, with a complete severing of the spinal cord in that region. An injury of this kind instantly and irreversibly interrupts the connection between the brain and the rest of the body, compromising the respiratory center and all motor functions below the lesion. Even if the heart can continue beating for several minutes, autonomous breathing is lost almost immediately and the prognosis is virtually non-existent. Doctors kept Villeneuve on life support and artificial ventilation, though he showed no neurological activity. International specialists were consulted, but the conclusion was unanimous. The injury was irreversible. When his wife arrived at the hospital and the situation was explained to her, the decision was made to withdraw life support. His death was officially recorded at 9:12 p.m. on the same day as the accident. The subsequent official investigation did not assign responsibility to Jochen and concluded that the primary cause of the accident was driver error by Villeneuve, who attempted a high-speed overtake in an area where the margin for correction in both time and space was minimal. No sanctions or legal actions followed regarding responsibility for the crash. The cause was classified as a driver error that ended in tragedy, without implicating Jochen or technical factors as a direct cause. And that's it for today's video. If you enjoy this kind of content, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed and left a like, as your support allows me to continue producing these technical analyses. It also helps you stay up to date with all the new material we post on the channel. Before signing off, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and know whether you believe Gilles Villeneuve's death could have been avoided. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be reading your comments, and I'll see you in the next video.